If you're a vegan, can you eat fish?
Hi, I'm NISHA.
I'm Nicole.
I'm DANI.
And I'm Hannah. And this is
The Vegan View.
Cheers!
Hey guys, welcome back to The Vegan View. So today we're going to talk about why vegans don't eat fish. I think a lot of times people can understand why you don't eat land animals, but they have a hard time sympathizing with fish. So why don't you guys eat fish?
I think a common misconception most people have is that fish don't have feelings like other sentient beings, like cows, chickens, and pigs.
I used to think that fish was actually the very last thing that I cut out of my diet. My reasoning for that was just that they were less sentient than the other animals, and so I felt less guilty about it. And what actually made the switch for me, at least with fish, I was in Hawaii with my boyfriend's family, and we went fishing for the day because his brother loves to fish. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go because I'd love to see the sunrise in Hawaii from a boat and get to see the island from a different perspective. And you spend like 6 hours on a boat. So I knew that the fish was going to have to probably die, but I didn't think that I fully understood the process of how it happens. And when they actually caught the fish, they had to have 3 or 4 men hold the fish down on the side of the boat, and then they beat it to death basically with a hammer. I mean, that's not always the way it happens, but this fish was larger and needed more manpower. When they were beating, I'm gonna cry. When they were beating it, I just started crying on the boat, so much that my boyfriend was like, please calm down because this is these men's livelihood. And I was hysterical over it because I could feel the fear that the fish had, and I could sense the pain that he had. And then they pull it on board and there's just blood everywhere, and it was that fish was fighting for its life in that very moment. And I heard it. I didn't even look, but I just heard it flapping against the side of the boat, and then I could hear the flap slow down. And that was, to me, the first time I had ever been that was a fish feeling something.
I actually really liked fish before I was vegan. I would always order fish at restaurants and stuff like that. I think once you go vegan and you start thinking about your food and where it comes from, fish to me is just another piece of meat. I'm this is someone else's body. This was a life that had to end for me to eat it. And it just, even though it sometimes, honestly, still sometimes sounds good to me, which is gross, but it's a habit that I have from before I was vegan. Yeah. I'm that's someone else's body. I don't want to put a dead body in my body. I don't want to end a life to fill my hunger. It's the same as other animals to me now.
Right. I think a lot of people have trouble sympathizing with sea animals in general because we spend so little time with them. In general,
it's easy to disconnect.
Yeah, we see land animals a lot more often, which is probably why we don't eat pets, and we eat these farm animals because they're kind of segregated away from us. While fish, you can go your whole life without seeing a fish if you're not near the sea, except when it's on your plate. And most sea animals, we don't really think of as sentient or as living or as intelligent, things capable and deserving of life. And do you know, Miley Cyrus, her huge thing when she was becoming vegan was because she had a pet blowfish.
Really?
Oh,
Have you heard the song? It'll make you cry.
She wrote a song about her blowfish?
She wrote a song about this blowfish, and everyone was laughing about it, but I remember, I don't know if I was vegan at the time, I might have been. And I saw it and I just was sobbing because she just talked about it before, and she says you get fish, and she's I got it to decorate my house. She's thinking of it as a thing and not as a living, breathing, sentient being. And then she forms this relationship with it, and when it dies, she came to the realization that that fish are living, breathing things, that sea animals are intelligent creatures, and they're capable of forming relationships. They can recognize faces. They can remember things. We think goldfish can't remember more than 3 seconds.
Courses.
Yeah, but they can. Your pet goldfish can recognize your face. It's just it's like a dog.
A lot of people think, and I used to think, that they don't feel pain, or they don't feel pain in the same way that we do because they don't have that sentience. But even if that is true, which I feel like there's more and more research, like you said, that is showing that that's not true, that they exhibit fear and pain and stress in the same way that mammals do, like increased adrenaline and other stress reactions. But even if that is true, that they don't feel stress in the same way, it's kind of like what you said, Hannah. If you've ever seen a fish when you're fishing, and a lot of times they're not beaten because they're not that big. If they're just the small ones, you see them gasping for air, and it's like that animal is fleeing discomfort the same way that any other animal does, and it is fearful. And if you don't need it for nutritional purposes, which I don't believe that we do, then it's just that you like the way it tastes. And I can't look at a fish who's gasping for air and think like, I don't care.
Yeah.
The way they kill fish is really messed up. So gills are what allows most sea creatures to breathe. And when gills are not buoyant in water, they collapse. So it's like someone taking your nose and your mouth and closing it up, and you suffocating when you bring them out of the water.
And they look so panicked, and it's just like,
It's so
it makes me
sad, yeah.
Yeah, it's like
so
all their
unnecessary.
internal organs are collapsing. Like it's like if your lungs collapse, and that's what they're going through. It's essentially drowning in air.
You brought up another point for your health, and I think that a lot of people still to this day think that eating fish is really healthy, and they think they're making a great choice when they're ordering a piece of fish. And I thought that too for a long time, and that was one of the most shocking things that I found when I started to do research on veganism, was how actually really bad eating fish is for us. So what have you guys found?
For me, the fish was the first thing I actually gave up, which is crazy because I wasn't going vegan at the time, and most people, that's actually the last thing they give up. Because I had heard so many things about women when they have children passing down all the PCBs, like the pieces of plastic and the toxins in the environment, to their children that they carry throughout their whole entire life. And I was thinking like, okay, for me, I personally like want to have children much older or adopt. And at the time I was thinking, okay, I want to make my body as good and healthy as possible. And my doctor told me, like, fish is really bad for pregnant women to not eat, but we can't tell people that because they would freak out. And he was talking about how they test babies' blood and they find like all these like mercury and particle contaminants and stuff like that right after the baby's being born. So they know it's not anything in the baby's environment. It's like what the mom's eating.
Wow.
And a lot of the time they like casually mention, oh, do you eat fish? And that's the case. And I mean, this is just like what my doctor was telling me. So I said, that's it. I'm done. And it's just,
That was one thing, like, because I used to love sushi, and I did eat a lot of fish for a good chunk of my life because I preferred that over regular meat, was like mercury poisoning. You hear about mercury poisoning, people getting mercury poisoning.
and mercury
Scary.
poisoning is slow. Like, it's slow building, and then one day you have it.
Yeah.
Especially in things like canned tuna.
It's so much.
It's so much. Like, I forget what I was watching, but it was a compilation of different studies, and they were talking about one that showed, you know, those old-fashioned fillings, the ones that we don't have anymore, that would slowly release mercury. A half a serving, basically a half a tin of canned tuna, has a similar amount of mercury.
So crazy.
And I would
used
eat
to
like
eat
a
the
whole
whole
can.
Me too.
Yeah.
I used to think
I was being healthy.
Yeah,
too.
like this is such a lean protein. Yeah.
I like looking at all non-vegan products in this way. You think about it, and it's like, what is it that it has to offer nutritionally? Fish offers protein. It offers a little bit of iron and fat, right?
And
So-
omegas.
and omegas are the fats, right? So, but protein is not a problem. You can get that from a ton of different plant sources. Iron, same thing. Leafy greens, beans, done.
And specifically the type of fat that fish have, that why people want to have it over other animal fats, the omega-3s. And omega-3 comes from algae, and which is in the ocean, which the fish eat. But then you're also getting everything that fish ate, everything that fish passed through, and there's so much freaking plastic in the ocean and chemical runoff. And then anytime you discuss the ocean, you have to discuss animal agriculture, because there's runoff that comes from animal agriculture dead zones that have been created all over the world. All the waste that comes from cows and chickens is put into these huge vats, and then they enter the ocean.
As well
so
as, like you said, plastic is a huge
anything
problem.
from the ocean you should not be eating. Like, even me as a vegan, I try to stay away from seaweed that's been caught like out in the wild, because hijiki seaweed has been tested to be like one of the most densely like mercury containing things, and it's not a good place to get food from.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
there's actually 3 different types of omega-3s that you get from fish. I just watched a video on it. It's by Erin Janice. I'll link it in the description
It's really
box if you
good.
guys want to watch it, because she did a really good job of putting it together. The ALA you can easily get from flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and a lot of different other
Walnuts.
plants. And then the DHA, and I think is it CLA? Those ones are a
ELA.
little bit ELA. Those ones are you can get from like seaweed and stuff or algae, but it's so easy just to take like a DHA supplement if you're worried about it. I take it while I'm pregnant. And
Dr. Greger recommends
Yeah.
doing
So
that.
easy.
It's easy, yeah.
And a lot of like salmon is really, really popular, and farmed salmon is actually supplemented with flaxseed meal in their feed.
that's funny.
So it's like the same thing with protein and meat. Like you can get it straight from the source, from where the fish is getting it. You don't need to eat the fish.
To get it, yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. Like if you can get DHA from flax seeds, you're also getting fiber, you're also getting a bunch of other antioxidants that are really good for you, minerals. So it's like the whole package, not just the DHA. Or if you're getting DHA from a fish, you're getting the toxins, you're getting the mercury, and you're getting the animal proteins, which have been shown to be inflammatory in the system. So it's like it's important to look at food as a package and like make sure you're getting the best bang for your buck, you know.
You can get all of the vital nutrients from a plant source. Then what's the point of
Right.
killing someone to get it? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
And environmentally, fish is a huge drain on the planet. Our oceans are dying. If you just go to the ocean and you grew up, you're like our age, there's a huge difference from what it looked like when we were younger and what from now. It is not good. And
No.
that is not because, like, a lot of fishers and sustainable sources, sustainable fishing environmentalist groups will like to say that there's too many of this species that's eating all the fish, and it's not that. This is a natural ecosystem that we're disrupting, that we're creating a demand for, and we're making the problem. This is all, like, animal agriculture is a human sourced problem, and if you can do anything to decrease the death of our planet, it's not only going to improve your lifetime, but the lifetime of your children, and if you're not going to have children, the lifetime of your friends' children. Just future generations are not going to have the oceans.
So yeah, after doing all the research on fish, because my husband went vegan after me, and the fish part was like the hardest for him to grasp, so I did a lot of research on it, and the environmental aspects of it was really the part that hit home for me the most, because the way they are like mass fishing with the nets, like for 1 pound of fish that they're trying to catch, they're getting like 5 pounds of, they call it like bycatch, yeah, and that's like dolphins and sharks and sea turtles, like these animals that, you know, like a lot of foundations are trying to protect, but by eating fish.
And they're promoting this kind of
Yeah,
fishing.
it
Like the
just makes no
sustainable
sense.
fishing is kind of like the humane meat of the sea. It doesn't really exist. And even with farming, it's not the healthiest. You get like these genetically modified fish.
So it's not even like that one dead animal that's on your plate that had to die for you to get that animal on your plate. Like there was a lot of other animals that died too. And yeah, we're disrupting the ecosystem in the ocean, and if we don't have an ocean, our ecosystem's not gonna work, you know? Like it all like ties together from every little tiniest fish. We need the whole thing to work, and by us going in there and taking out a chunk of their population, it's just messing it up.
Yeah.
Fish also act as filters for the water in the ocean. Have you seen that picture of like the oysters in the tank, and then the oysters taken out of the tank, the water gets really dirty?
Yeah.
So everything in the ocean is like taken through the fish. And so when you remove it, there's more pollutants, and then the balance of phytoplankton, I think that's what it's called, gets thrown off. And it said every 10 breaths we take, 1 whole breath is from the ocean. And it's from that like chemical reaction that happens when phytoplankton does whatever. There's a video on it, we'll link in the bio, that Ali Tabrizi did. And it's like, the air we breathe also comes from the ocean. And when we take out this balance of fish, it makes the oceans dirtier, and we have less oxygenated, healthy air to breathe.
Yeah, everything in the ocean is there for a reason, and
Yeah.
we're just going in there and messing everything up, just like
I know,
we
I'm
always
like, can
do.
we leave the oceans alone?
I know.
Don't we have enough on Earth?
Haven't we done enough damage?
And yeah, if you're craving fish still, there's so many good options out there. I loved sushi and I still love it today. So if I'm going to a sushi restaurant, I'll typically get avocado sushi or vegetable sushi, and you can add avocado to the vegetable sushi, which will make it like creamier, and it's seriously so good. It's surprising how much it still tastes like regular sushi, because what you really are craving is like the soy sauce and the rice and the seaweed.
It makes it
and
taste like sushi.
yeah. And then we're actually going to do a taste test that will be in next week's episode, and we have a bunch of faux fish products that we're going to try out, because there's so many out there. I know that there's some local restaurants that I go to that have like vegan shrimp and stuff, and they're so good. So
I've never tried vegan shrimp.
oh,
It's
it's
crazy
so good.
how like close they get things these days. So if you're still craving that, don't worry.
And the
Yeah.
Gardein fish fillets actually have algae in them. It has the DHA that a regular fish does, plus the protein. So you're getting a
that's
really
interesting.
similar
That's
like health
amazing.
benefit from it.
Yeah,
so I
those
think
ones are
that's
so
cool.
good too.
They're really good, especially with tartar sauce. I feel the same way about sushi. When I started eating vegetable sushi, I was like, wow, it was one of my favorite
changed
foods.
my life.
Yeah.
I really thought I was
Yeah.
gonna miss it, and I don't. And now I do sushi bowls all the time too, because I always have meal prepped rice. I almost always have avocado, cucumber, soy sauce.
Ooh, do you guys ever put mango in your sushi?
It's
Yeah.
so
Yes.
good.
It's
my
really
favorite
Yeah.
avocado
Or in your
mango.
sushi
especially
bowl.
with
Oh.
vegan spicy mayo.
And ask your local sushi restaurants if they have vegan options, because I've been to some where I've been like, oh, do you have anything that's vegan, or can you make any of the rolls vegan? And they'll do that. They'll
Yeah.
put like
Oh,
a piece
yeah.
of mango on top instead, and they'll
And
like
it's,
mix
like,
it in with avocado.
Sometimes it's better than what your friends
Yeah.
order.
Yeah.
It's so good, yeah. So
I have a
don't be afraid
recipe
to
on my
ask.
channel for vegan sushi, and I actually use a roasted red pepper, you know, the kind you get in a jar. I use that on top of the fish, or on top of the sushi roll, so it
Yeah.
almost looks like spicy, or almost looks like
cool.
tuna.
Yeah.
It's really cute, and it's like a sweet potato one. There's a bunch. I'll link it below.
Nice.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful to those of you who are curious about this topic. And let us know in the comments down below what some of your favorite fish alternatives are so we can try them. And yeah, we'll see you guys in next week's video of The Vegan View. Bye. God, dude, you can't
You
just
can't
tell
just
people.
assume people can eat fish.
Wait,
I
did
don't
the
know.
lemons look weird? No?
Wait!
The content. Do the lemons look good?
Lemon's always stealing the show.
The lemons, people anticipate these lemons